Or something like that. And supervise. But some of these things. We need something. No. We don't need director professionals to do something. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay, folks, let's call this regular council meeting of June 16th to order at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, I will declare that we do have quorum. And before we get moving, as we gather here this evening, doing so in lands that are rich in Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, Métis, Anishinaabe, and Cree peoples. And this evening, we'll recognize territorial reference to the Pequot One Nation on behalf of council and the entire community. Thank them for the continued friendship. Also, before we get going, I'd like to introduce a new start for us here, new coming back, if you will. Terry Vachon has been retained by the town to return to his previous position of manager of community services. Thank you. I mean, so many times. And those of you, most of you will know Terry. Those of you who don't know Terry, Terry brings a wealth of experience and background. Much of his career spent here in Cochrane, moved away to the southern part of the province. Made a good reputation for himself down there as well too. Came highly recommended from the folks that he was working with, and Terry is excited to come back, I think, and rejoin his family here, and to bring the passion that he's always had for the community and the care for recreation special events. We did a lot of big things in this community, and you think of a lot of the big accomplishments from the event center to the pavilion to many of the other things that we've addressed here. Terry was either indirectly or directly involved in. So we're really excited to welcome Terry back today. Really grateful that you've chosen to come back here and finish out your career here in the community, if you will. And was wondering if you had a few words you want to present yourself.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, Worship. Not used to having no mics here. Usually is the kind of mic you have to kind of perspective. No, happy to be back in Cochrane. A lot of old faces, a lot of new faces. People and a lot of really good people. I've had a chance to meet my staff, and again, a lot of folks that I actually hired 10 years ago that are still there. So I'm happy to work with them and the new crew that's there as part of community service. I'm really looking forward to working with the town, looking forward to working with the council. Like your worship said, I'm happy to be back. Both my kids have moved back to Cochrane, which is one of the big reasons why I'm back here, is to be with my kids and to enjoy the rest of this chapter of my life with them. And so again, I want to thank Mayor and Council for hiring me back. I hope I can meet or exceed your expectations. And look forward to having some discussions with you folks. I know a lot of people have reached out and said they have projects or ideas that they want to share. So definitely open to those. And looking forward to working with them.
Looking forward to the energy, Terry. Thanks for choosing to again. The second person I wanted to introduce here as well too is online. She was going to make it here with us this evening, but unfortunately had vehicle trouble. So she is online. She's the new HR manager for the community. Her name is Tiffany Rion. We've secured Tiffany out of the mining industry. She was living in Timmins. She brings a lot of experience in the HR field, comes highly recommended as well, has a lot of energy, a lot of great ideas. And I think she has 2 twin teenage boys that she's looking to bring with herself and those boys to the community and become a part of our family, secure a home here, and become a great part of our future as well too. So Tiffany, welcome. I appreciate you choosing Cochrane as well too. Looking forward to a great relationship, and wondering if you might have had a word or two that you want to share as well.
Yes, certainly. Thank you all for the warm welcome. It's been a very nice, warming atmosphere here in Cochrane. I've been enjoying my time and looking forward to lots of work on the go and changing things and getting things going on a good horizon.
Great. Thanks, Tiffany. Welcome both of you, okay? And with that, then, Madam Clerk, I do believe we have an agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll read the motion.
Please.
Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of June 16th, 2026 be adopted.
Okay, moved by Councilor Reimer.
Yes, Your Worship.
Second by Councilor Lukowski.
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any additions or deletions? Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, if council would entertain 2 additions to the agenda, The first would be an agenda under item 15.3, which is the bylaw section, to appoint a treasurer for the corporation of the town of Cochrane. And the second item, if council would entertain an addition to the in-camera session, this would be under sections 239 subsection 2 clause B, personal identifiable individual, regarding an update on the treasury vacancy.
Okay, and where are we looking at locating those? One is enclosed.
So the bylaw, Mr. Mayor, would be item 15.3.
Thank you.
And then the second item, if it's okay with you and your council, we can also determine that once we go into closed as to where that would sit on the agenda.
Any issues, council? Okay, seeing leave of council, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moved by Councillor Reimer, second by Councillor Rakowski. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, do we have a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the draft minutes of the regular council meeting held on May 26, 2026, and the special council meeting held on June 4th, 2026 be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Esposito,
Yes, your worship.
second by Councillor Nelson.
Yes, worship.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Additions or deletions? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Your worship, I just want to point out in the special meeting minutes on the 4th of June, there's a correction in my declaration of interest, and I chalk it up to whipping that declaration up very quickly, handwritten, and I think probably the staff not able to read my writing, but there's a clause that says, as my employer offers capital work project, and in the meetings it says minutes, but it should read project management and capital work services, as well as engineering services for linear assets upgrades. I just need that changed, and if council would would approve adopting them as amended, I will make sure that the form is legible. I will correct and make sure it's legible to read what it should have said.
Madam Clerk?
Yeah, so if council's okay with it, if the preferred wording, if council's okay with it, would be as corrected as opposed to amended based on the discussion that was just had.
Okay, any issues from council? Okay, as corrected, all in favor? Carried, thank you very much. Okay, Madam Clerk, I do believe we have a consent agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'll read the motion.
Of course.
Be it resolved that the consent agenda items listed on the June 16th, 2026 council agenda be received and that the motions contained therein be approved and duly recorded as presented.
Okay, moved by Councillor Shannon.
Yes,
Thank you. Second by Councillor Rakowski.
Yes, your worship.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried, thank you very much. Okay, I believe we're on item 11.1, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Just a verbal update from myself on the potential for junior hockey team. I asked to have this item council placed on the agenda to provide a bit of an update. We've had folks roaming through the event center. We've had initiatives for billets being put out to put us in a position to secure one of the junior A teams that might be available in the NOJHL. Support from the league, the NOJHL as well too, for that relocation to take place here in Cochrane. The update this evening, though, unfortunately, is that we haven't been able to come to terms with one of the teams on the relocation. It wasn't what we were trying to secure. I think there's a lot of potential there, and perhaps potential in the future. And I do believe we also have some initiatives underway through the Under 18 program that may provide some opportunities for the municipality as well too. So some type of competitive hockey at that level, they're entertaining and trying to pursue the opportunities for the municipality. Right now, we don't have anything concrete to report, and I thought that would be important to bring up to me at this point. Thank you, Myers. Take away. I think we just do this. Okay, with that then, if there aren't any questions, item 11.3. Oh, sorry, 11.2. The manager of infrastructure with an update on 2nd Street paving, which we are trying to work our way through the RFP process. So perhaps just start with a very brief on where we are, where we've come at, and where we are at, and then go ahead and provide which update is.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have been directed to provide an update for the 2nd Street project. As council is aware, we only received one single bid for the project, which now stands rejected. Council, as per the direction, staff reached out to the consultants and the funding agency to determine a way forward for the project. And we asked the funding agency for two requests. The first request was to extend the timelines beyond what it is right now. And the second request was to rescope the project for this year to allow the town to tender again for roads work and for the water works only. The response that we received from the funding agency are that they are not considering any extensions as of now. They also said that all other municipalities have also requested extensions, but a decision has not been made. And it takes 4 to 6 months to make a decision on that. In saying that, they did not agree to the extension, but they did not reject the request for extension. So we're not sure if our request is going to be entertained or not. That is the update.
Okay. And do you have a recommendation? Because part of what council was speaking to with respect to this item was reallocating resources, if we're not going to be able to somehow come up with a way to move this project along on Second Street. So the update for everybody in layman's terms is the council set aside a budget to reconstruct Second Street, which is the Polar Habitat Road. And that reconstruction included infrastructure and paving. There was funding, a significant amount of funding that was associated with that road that required a substantial completion to be done by October, I think this year, if I recall correctly. The town had gone out a couple of times, twice, for bids, hadn't received a satisfactory bid. One was twice the budget, quite frankly. And in that regard, now we're sitting there, we have a budget amount that's been taxed for, that and we have many roads needs in the municipality. And so the effort was to go out and see if we can somehow either pave Second Street and do the infrastructure next year, or reallocate the town's portion of that because it's a significant amount of funding that's associated that as well to other paving inside this town. So coming back to you, or actually let's speak to yourself, Mr. Sager. So we've had many conversations on the potential opportunities here. Do we see an opportunity and a recommendation council to consider?
We're not quite able to give you a firm recommendation, but we could read the room and have a bit of a discussion and bring something firmer back to the next council meeting. What we have been discussing is the practicalities of the paving on that particular stretch of road. So other projects we've been doing, so the $4.8 million paving project was a shave and pave. This is a complete reconstruction. So we considered a shave and pave and worry about the pipes next year in the hopes that the funders will approve our request for extension. But that isn't particularly practical because, again, we're not talking about shave and pave construction. So we're still trying to assess some other potential projects that could be reallocated, some of the funds that would have been built into the 2026 burden to recognize and try to get some traction, but there isn't particularly very simple, easy paving scenario. There might be other types of projects that we could bring back and say, we recommend doing 2 or 3 smaller projects, or we could swing for a paving scenario, but time is of the essence here now as well. And but the good news is we do have the specs. Mr. Gomez, of course, chime in as needed there. We've been working together to try to understand what our options are. And we don't have a really good, firm resolution for you this evening. And get a little bit of feedback, come back with a later presentation, but there's also tendering or RFP options. We could RFP with a problem statement. Here's our problem. Bidders, instructors, how can they help us out of this sort of short-term jam? And there are some parts of that project that would make sense to mobilize in 2026 for a future project in 27, but there's risk, of course, involved. And to do this justice, of course, we need a little bit of feedback with detail, because we're not putting people in a firm recommendation right now, unless Mr. Gomez and this afternoon after we met this morning has a pearl of wisdom that would solve all our problems with it. So the short answer is we're still working on it. Longer answer is we can have this discussion and try to understand practicalities of other options that we can do given the constraints that we have now for the construction season.
Okay, any comments from council? That's generally it.
Question, a few questions. So just for clarification, Member through you to the manager or the CEO. So if I understand correctly, then we will lose this if they don't allow the extension. We'll lose the funding if it's not done by if it's not done this year or by March 31st?
Well, I think it's fair to say there's a risk of losing the funding because we cannot meet substantial completion by October. So
That's your question.
yeah, so there is a risk, but it is not guaranteed that we will lose the funding. I don't believe the funders enjoy turning down or, going back on that. I'm cautiously optimistic we'll get the extension. The scope change will get to be determined. It depends on how the funders react, and they will react in their own time, and they will react based on the other projects that have not been able to get off the ground and the lobbying that happens from all those municipalities who would like an extension as well. So we should join forces with them and lobby for that extension.
Thank you. So a few questions. So if I understand correctly, one of the options is to take, how much is our portion of that? To take that for our portion, either use that funding, switch it to a different project, or we inquired on that. Was that an option? It was an option?
We're still pursuing that, and we'd like to come back with a firmer number of what our share is so that we can clarify with the things.
Okay, so
to be allocated.
So if I can just understand another question, if we put it on hold, recognizing that the funding hopefully will still be there, and then if I understood correctly, you're saying that the share that we were going to put in that's already been budgeted for, you want to spend that elsewhere in the meantime?
Reallocating.
So, but then we won't have that share. If the funding comes through, we won't have what we originally had, let's say, I don't know, 500,000 or whatever the heck it is, I don't know. If we spend that elsewhere, what are we going to spend that on? Because that doesn't get you much paving, and we're already doing all the shape and pave we can, I think. That can be done this year without additional work. Yeah, I just want to be clear. So let the conversation carry on.
Yeah. So to answer that question, to help it well, so there's a number of different road projects. We have no shortage of road projects in the municipality that we need to get done. We've allocated money in the budget this year for this project. But if we're not going to do this project, we've already taxed for that money. And we've done this 2 or 3 years in a row. So we have to really start finding a way to not tax for resources and then not do the project for regular reasons. So we take our portion of this road and do 15th Avenue, for example, which is probably one of the worst roads in any municipality. Just as an example. Then we're taking tax dollars, we're getting road paving done, our roads need to be done, which we're gonna have to pay for later anyway. And instead of paying for 15th later, we pay for the paving on second once we get the second and come back. So it's the same money. That's this, at the end, it's the same money being spent. We're just shopping the resources around and actually getting roadwork done.
Thank you for that. The money we've taxed, we could put in reserves, so I just want to point that out for the project. But also, I don't recall if 15th requires engineering or underground work or anything like that. If we're just going to take that and shape and pave there, that's no better than just shape and paving 2 and 3 right now and having to dig it up next.
Yeah, so that's part of the dialogue we have to take. I think there's a good question there, but we need to kind of go through that big question. I've got some questions myself that need to be answered and that's well too. But the bottom line is we can take the money and put it in reserve. We can put all our money in reserves and don't do any of it. Or we can minimize the reserves for what's reasonable, which is what we've been doing, and try to get road work done, which I think is the direction we're trying to adopt. So this conversation here is how do we get road work done? Because we keep allocating resources every budget, we keep setting them aside, we're not getting to these issues for a lot of very bad reasons. At the end of the day, we still have people driving on roads that are really rough. I don't know if you've been on the Keith.
Of course.
I've seen that, yeah. But and from my sense, we either pave to the Second Avenue, which is over half that road. I'm not sure reconstruction is required because to me, we'll give up on this word, but to me, surface treatment, taking the pavement off and resurfacing and putting the pavement on, I'm not sure what else is required if the infrastructure is off to the side, and we're going to do that next year anyway if we can, because on this road, the infrastructure is not actually under the road, it's off to the side of the road. So that's one question. I don't know, I have 15th is a perfect example. I think it's one of the worst roads in town. We have the OPP calling us on a regular basis because they frequent that road, asking us like, what's the deal? Like, what's happening to your paving? It's a hill. So I don't know if there's any drainage issues. Me as a layman speaking, not an expert. It's a hill. So I don't know if there's any drainage. It's just very old. So if we repave that section at 15th, which doesn't cost much when you're servicing, relatively speaking, we resurface, we lay the pavement down. I'm not sure what else needs to be done there, but there's other roads as well too. I'm just saying there's other opportunities for us. We have a 69-year backlog. So we could double our roads budget and still be 34 and a half years behind. There's no shortage of roads budgets.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, first, your question regarding the Second Street too.
Yeah.
It does need some engineering because the water portion, the stormwater drainage has to be there right now. It's only ditches that carry the water. So if we do decide to put pavement there, which I'm guessing you are referring to asphalt.
Yeah.
So if we do decide to have it there, we would need catch basins to take that water, stormwater away from the pavement, from asphalt, that which would require engineering.
Okay, but isn't that designed already? Because we had that as a project for this year.
That is designed as a part of the project. Like that is a part of the tender that we have right now. So I'm not sure if they like, and then so we asked the funding agency to allow us to rescope the project, and that will be a part of the rescoping that we would have to do just to segregate the wastewater rooms out of there.
If we're chasing the funding, this is the nuance and this is the nuance of stuff.
Also, a part of the project is also bulk water filling station, which is what bulk water filling station, which we have funding for right now from the water side of the works. So we would have to let that go and only take care of the stormwater drainage. So there would still be rescoping required to do before we put it out to tender or RFP.
I'm confused on the rescope because all this engineering is already done.
But that has an added scope portion for the bulk water filling station.
What's that?
A bulk water filling station where people would come and they fill up their RVs or whatever, and they pay the town.
But that was not part of the original project?
That is a part of the original project, yeah. Yes, and that's the part which we got funding for too. So the project is divided into two parts: the road parts and the water part.
Okay.
The water part, and we have funding for both parts.
Yeah.
So for water, we actually got the funding for installing a bulk water filling station there.
Okay, but that infrastructure is off to the side?
No, that's the wastewater infrastructure that is
It's
to,
off to the side.
yes,
Sewer? Just sewer's off
the
the side?
wastewater infrastructure, yes.
Okay, so that's the reconstruction we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Costa.
Well, after listening to all the goes and backs, I feel that we shouldn't be touching anything there. We have the funding for it. We're going to lose the funding, whether we lose the funding or not. If we pave it and we go ahead with the construction next year, the amount of traffic and heavy equipment that's going to be on that piece of section, that's going to be all destroyed anyway. So for a matter of 3 months of actual summer, 4 months, we'll say, of summer traffic, like it wouldn't make sense to pave it. And I mean, if the road is that rough right now, in lieu of the contract, rip it up, grade it. We have graders sitting 200 feet from the road. Keep it graded, put calcium on it for this year. When we find out whether we get the funding to do the whole job, because we've already spent a pile of money on engineering and we've looked at this back and forth, to start all over again. If we lose the funding, we'll say, we go back to zero. Just wait till we get from the funding agencies. And I'm sure they're going to say, well, due to the general financial climate of the country right now, we had one bidder. If we change the scope and adjust it, tweak it, we could have more than one bidder and at a price that's acceptable or closer to the budget. And the idea of we've allocated money for it, fine. Well, the money isn't going to vaporize. It's still there. But their money doesn't get old. I mean, if we allocated money for that job, whether it happens this year or next year, it's still there. Now, to take that money and go somewhere else with it, I understand there's a section on 15th Avenue that has to be done. It's about 150 meters of really rough road. We have a paving contract in place. That can be just an addition to that contract. And if we get other funding for, let's say, the railroad in front of the rock shield, there's some work to be done there. We can do some of those projects with other funds. But I don't believe we should touch the 2nd Avenue project until we're absolutely sure that we haven't exhausted all our opportunities. And like I say, the road's rough. Rip it up. They did that with the golf course road. It used to be paved. They ripped it up. They graded it. It's smoother than the polar habitat road. So rip up what pavement's already there, keep it graded. Keep the public happy, that's all.
Anyone else? Councilor Roberts?
I tend to agree with Councilor Rogowski in that my recollection, this was a very complex project with respect to how all the different funding sources would come together and to lessen the impact on ratepayers. And to try to pull that apart now, I think we would, it's not going to be as effective even if we would take that, and I believe it was around 500,000 or so, I could be wrong. Approximately that was specifically from the ratepayers on the original budget. So that's not a whole lot. Again, it's frustrating to know that we had a budgeted price and the only one bid came in. So I'm thinking if we could do a minor rescope, if in fact we don't need to do the wastewater, if that part doesn't ever really need to be done. Perhaps putting out another RFP will give us better bidders. Do something first thing in the spring. Right now we don't have a whole lot of options, and it's, again, the summer's going by quick.
Yep.
So it's
Okay. Anybody's answers? Councilor Musk?
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. So I'm just feeling frustrated again. I feel that we are doing this every year, putting money aside to get work done. And then by the time the RFPs go out, it's late in the year. Contractors are already set up for other places. So I don't know how that can be fixed. So is it, in the middle of winter, put out the RFPs so that springtime we have the bidders, get things set. So I don't know. That's where I'm at.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, for this specific project, we put out the RFPs in the middle of March, in the first week of March. So first time around, we didn't get any bidders. Then we had to put it out again, and we got only one bid for this project.
Thank you.
Okay, so go ahead.
Final comments on this?
That's okay.
So staff wanting the council to be aware that if we do not proceed with this project, then all the engineering and all the work that we have done this far, and we also have retained consultants on this project, that would be wasted. And we would also be forfeiting almost $1.5 million in funding for this project. Additionally, staff does have some recommendations for council to consider should council consider not doing Second Street project and going forward with this money that is allocated for this project to other projects. If council wishes to, I can elaborate.
Okay, so let's call that plan, the second part of the conversation. We're just about at that point. I think we've had a pretty good dialogue on Second Street. Do I get a sense that while there's some frustrations, there's consensus that there isn't much we can do about Second Street at this point, other than continue to go through the process and hope that it gets done next year. And to your point, we may forfeit funding, but if we don't, the way the funding's written right now, we don't have substantial completion by October, we may be forfeiting anyway. So that's the clarity that we have to all be honest about. The funding is at risk right now because we're not getting the project done, and it's, how long has this funding been in place, Mr. Liz, do you know? How long have we had the funding? Is that you or is that Mr. Grego?
So the funding has started. I believe it's 4 years, but the substantial completion was always for this year, and the plan that was originally submitted was for the construction to happen in this year.
Okay, but we've had the funding for 4 years.
And we've used that funding on the engineering part of that project.
All right, anybody else want to continue discussion on second? Again, I feel that the consensus is, unless I'm missing it, and feel free to speak up, council, that's what we're here for, that there isn't much we can do on the Second Street side other than wait for a confirmation from the funders. And if we get it in time to see if we can't get something started this year or not, best cases would be probably getting started. It certainly won't be completion, right? Oh, we need the bidder. Bidder than bidder. Yeah.
Again, I'm sorry, Bishop, I'm having a hard time hearing your condition.
I'm sorry. So all I'm saying is that the consensus seems to be that Second Street, as difficult as it is to handle, is an issue unto itself, and there's nothing we can do with Second Street until we hear from the funders and we secure a bidder. Correct?
I didn't know that was a question.
It wasn't a question. I'm just asking, was that correct? Was a statement?
Can you please repeat it?
You guys
You
are
was thinking next step or this.
All right. So, all I'm saying, I'm trying to summarize this part of the conversation. So on Second Street, my understanding is there seems to be consensus at council and from the operation that there isn't anything we can do with Second Street at this point until we hear back from the funders and we secure a contractor to do the work.
So the funding agency, there's a risk. That is correct. There's a risk that we either can get the funding or we denied the extension.
Yeah.
So in the meanwhile, we can rescope it, put it out to tender, and by the time that it's there, we might get an extension. That's the best case scenario.
Okay.
The worst case is we do all of that and we don't get an extension.
Thanks for adding that clarity. Okay, so then there's a rescoping going on as well at the same time. That's directions already been provided, or do we need anything from us on this end, or you're not expecting nothing from us on
That
this?
was the direction that was provided.
That's right. That's the
Last time.
Council good with that part, Second Street?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we do with the money that we've taxed for and we get the extra resources? What is the amount that's associated to, what is the amount that's associated to, well, actually, we'll talk about that when we close, we can't do it. So, what are the opportunities for us then that you want us to suggest in terms of reallocating resources that are already taxed?
Mr. Mayor, first option is that we have an annual sidewalks program and an annual Regularl program, which was cut down to only $27,500, while it's almost $200,000 each for that program. First option is we recoup these programs back to their original allocated limits.
What is it again?
Annual sidewalks program and the gravel runs that we have in the country. Those were brought down to $37,500 for this year, while the requested amount was $200,000 for each program, is what it's been done for past 2 to 3 years. So
Okay.
the first option is that we recoup these back to their original limits.
Yeah, and what are the other options you want to take? Okay, so before we go down that path, the item on the agenda is for Second Street. I think the intention was to have a heartfelt discussion on what we can do with the options. So I'm going to ask council if there are any objections. Let's continue to discuss the opportunities of reallocating the funding at this point. It's not on the agenda to expand the conversation. Any objection from council on doing that? Okay, seeing none, so clear up.
So the second option is completing the surface treatment on concession 2 and 3. That project was proposed initially during the budget deliberations, but that was not approved for this year. So that would be the second option, and we can discuss about the costs in the closed session. The third option is when staff were identifying shave and pave sections. One section we didn't include was because we were not sure how much the allocation was going to be. So one section is 11th Avenue between 5th and 6th Street. That is eligible for shave and pave program. That's the third option.
Can you repeat which?
11th Avenue between 5th and 6th Street. I believe that's the road that leads to.
Okay. And so we can get all the options on the tables. Can we have a discussion again? That 15th is when it stands out to me. For that being a hill, and can you help us understand why we wouldn't be able to resource that?
For 15th Avenue between 5th and 6th Street, staff did look at that. It requires a full depth reconstruction, and
A what?
therefore a full depth reconstruction.
What determines that?
So the underground infrastructure over there,
That you want to replace the infrastructure?
that is correct, and therefore needs engineering time.
Yeah, and again, we go back to our conversation on we don't have the resources to do infrastructure and paving. They're locked paving to infrastructure. So conceptually, what we've talked about here regularly is we need to start paving roads. That was the whole point of the shade and paving resurfacing. And if we get money for this infrastructure 5-10 years down the road, and we have to peel a piece of road up, that's the cost of actually paving all the roads and giving roads to municipality. The reason why we're behind here, like every municipality, is the emphasis on, well, if we're going to pave, then we want to do the infrastructure too. But the amount of money that's required for infrastructure isn't always there. It's holding the paving up, and it's contributing to why we're so far behind on roads. So again, this is a hill. It's an old road. Resurfacing by taking the layer off, not even shading paving, resurfacing is taking the whole layer off, reconstructing the surface, and then paving is a question that we continue to put out in terms of, can we get this stuff done? Because do you have money for allocated for, do you have funding for doing that part of 5th Street? The infrastructure.
For 5th Street,
15th, I'm sorry, my mistake, yeah.
So for 15th Avenue between 5th and 6th Street, should council direct staff, there are an RFP can be put out to just do shave and pave, but that is not an eligible section for just shave and pave. That's required underground infrastructure to be done as well. Should council wish to defer that decision to next year's, staff can definitely look into that opportunity.
But just a quick question for you, that every road requires infrastructure, doesn't it? And so we're behind on everything.
The asset management determines that, and as per our asset management and the street scan that was done 3 years ago, it gave some eligible sections that are for shave and pave, which are being done, except for the portion that I just mentioned. So every other section in town, even the one that we are currently working on, some of the sections, some of the catch basins that they're completely destroyed, so they'd have to be redone. So we are already seeing on the eligible portions for shave and pave, we already have infrastructure that needs more work than we originally thought of. So this brings me back to the point on 15th Avenue. We can definitely still only do the surface, but the infrastructure would have to be done at some point. If you don't decide to do it now, it would have to be done.
Yeah, council, I guess from my standpoint, to allow the council to comment on this, we're just not going to get paving done. And I'm not pointing the finger at anybody here at the end of the day. It's conceptually where we conceptually need to get our minds wrapped around, not just us, but every municipality. People are starting to recognize this. We're 69 years behind. You can double our roads budget and we'll be 34.5 years behind. 15th Street, is that a priority on infrastructure? Yeah, it needs to be done, but there's so many other areas in town where infrastructure needs to be done, and our borrowing capacity is starting to be stressed. There's only so much we can do. And what's going to happen is the province needs to start pitching in some of these resources, just like we talked about with water. We can't continue to shoulder all the costs. In my view, my humble view, we can't ask a local small town Canadian taxpayer to shoulder all these costs in infrastructure, which are astronomical at this point. The province has to come on board, and they're starting to come up with funds to do that. And we need to continue to pressure them to do that. If we continue to just make our decisions based on, well, we're not going to pave this section because we know the infrastructure needs to be done, it would be nice to do both. Yes, it would be nice to do both, but in many cases, it's better to get the paving done at least than some years down the road, if and when, and I suspect in some place like 15th, it'll be a long time before there's a amount of infrastructure for that we wait for that. So that's a decision for council. I'm struggling with, be honest with you, looking forward for discussions. Not for me.
To you, Worship, I too find it very frustrating that our primary responsibility at the state was to look after the infrastructure for our ratepayers. And as we found going through our budget exercise, the three largest line items are items that are completely out of our control: the OPP budget, the DSAB, and the Northeast Broadband Health Unit, whatever they're called today. So that puts us behind the 8 ball as it is. And so now we're trying to, with limited resources, like you say, the 69-year backlog. Given these three options from the manager of infrastructure, I feel very strongly that there has already been significant ratepayer funds invested in even three, and would probably would be wisest if we are going to redirect some funds to finish that project. Then that's done for, if it's well maintained, then that section is done for the next 25 years. Whereas if we don't do anything, that could be ruined within a year or two. So that's my initial thoughts on this. Just having it kind of brought up for discussion.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilor Kowski?
First of all, we're discussing real allocating funds from Second Street project when we don't even know. We didn't even have the answer from the funding grant agencies whether, like, we're taking money from that project, and if they come back and say, okay, we're going to do an extension, or you can do it, so we've already taken the money away. So I don't think we should be playing with that money at all until we have all the information. And as far as the 15th Avenue, there's a section, 150 meter section. Shave, grind it, pave it, get it, do it. We did the same thing at the intersection on Huron because there was a problem there all the time. We paved that little section knowing that eventually we're gonna have a project and it's gonna get done right up. But it's an acceptable loss. I mean, 50, you wouldn't believe the amount of traffic that goes down that road. And there's just that one section that is horrible. Shave it, pave it, and at least it'll give a few years of until we have funds to do all underground and everything else. Like sometimes a little Band-Aid will stop the infection instead of, I think we're playing with money from Second Avenue and the 15th Avenue. We already have a contract in place for $4.8 million. Add it on. Say, go to the contract and add it on.
Where does that money come from?
The 4.8.
So 4.8 is already paying for projects.
Yeah, but it's part of a paving project, isn't it? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, it is, but the money's already spent.
It's already allocated.
So,
On board.
and to your point's a good point. All I'm suggesting here is, it's a shell game. It's not taking money from Second Avenue, right? Because right now there's no Second Avenue the way it's being proposed, and what we're hearing back is there's no immediate urgency on the government side to get back to us on the funding part. So, if we, for example, this evening, again, 15th Avenue somehow became the poster child here, but it is a good example. If we somehow this evening said, okay, reallocate some of those resources to 15th to do the simple work that you're talking about, and if we'll wait, it'll be the last thing that we do because we have these other projects that are taking place. And when it comes time to do 15th, if we still haven't heard from the province, that's going to be in the middle of the summer. We're not getting Second Avenue. So reallocate those resources. Nothing's lost. It's already been taxed for. And those resources we would have spent on 15th next year or the year after, reallocate them to second next year. So it's just taking money and moving it around.
But I mean, the agency that we got the money from, the government agency, maybe we should have top management or the CEO reach out to those and say, please give us an answer rather than just, well, we're waiting. I don't believe in waiting. If I'm waiting for something and I'll wait a certain amount of time and after a while, I'm going to go after you. Yeah. I need an answer. Yes or no, because we're trying to do stuff here. To say that it could take 6 months, it'll take 6 months if we don't push them and say, come on, we need an answer.
And you're right, but I'm going to come to the aid of all three staff members. I know what's going on in the municipality. So the treasurer, the director of operations, and the CAO have all been chasing this funding agency around, all pressuring, sending letter after letter, making phone calls, direct phone calls have been made. It's government bureaucracy at provincial level, and all they're getting back right now is, yes, we've got the same requests from other places. We're not considering at this time, which is bureaucratese, or it's not a priority. And when it becomes a priority, we'll get to it, basically what they're saying. So all that's being proposed to us here, Councillor Koski, is Second Avenue in all likelihood, unfortunately, it's not going to be done this year. And that's what I was confirming in my summary. At best, if we do get this response from the government in time and a rescope is done in time and we go out to an RFP and we're already in the end of June, middle of June, and get contractors in time, then maybe some of second will get started and the rest will be finished in 2027, I think, and all practical purposes. And that's it. That's just reality. So my point is simple. Again, we've taxed people for this money and roads need to be done. All I'm looking for is an enabling approach on how do we reallocate and get some of this done.
All I'm saying is I don't want Whitner to come back and say, oops, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Let's think about it and make sure we're doing the right decision before we say that we're doing it. That's all I'm saying.
What else? Councillors Chairman.
And with Councillor Koski, we shouldn't touch it. If we've taxed it, it'll get done next year if the funding's there. We can decide then because we don't know what the exact amount is. Like, Councillor Reimer seems to recall somewhere around like 500,000 or something like that. It's if we use it to just shave and pave the street, it needs to be dug up anyway. And then we're not sure. If you talk about our financing ability in that, well, we may not be able to finance that portion next year. We don't know. And if council's considering going that route anyways and using that part that's been taxed for that from the taxpayers, then yes, I agree. 15. I used to drive down that road, but I avoid it now. Huron is brutal. Like that whole stretch too. Could use some pavement. It's going to be dug up later. It's kind of throwing good money out to that if you're just going to I listened to Councillor Reimer and I agree. We invested, this town has already invested even before our time, the first lift, and then we did the second lift on 2 and 3. And so this is, if we spend it there, we don't have to redo anything that's well maintained for 25 years or so, as Councillor Reimer said. So to me, if you're going to spend that money, put it somewhere where it's going to be a permanent fix for a long time and not something we're going to have to dig up in a couple of years. I'd rather leave it. I'd rather leave the money there so that if the funding is there, we can do it without having to look for additional funds because we've already put it in reserves for that project. But if council decides to do something with it instead, I would say, and I hate to say it for the residents that are on that street, but if it's next year, it's next year. But if we're just shaving paving it and we're gonna have to dig it up because of the infrastructure, you're just throwing money out the window.
Yeah, if we get that infrastructure, that's the question, right? And I guess that's the conceptual difference we're having at the table with some of us, quite frankly, is we're not getting that infrastructure in 15, and that paving is remains the way it is.
But just a small question for Mr. Gomez. So how does, like, what I'm hearing is 150 meters is, I've been on the road today. So I'm assuming that's the worst, hilliest part. Okay. How does 150 meters compare to the meters you had in mind for 11th between 5th and 6th? It's roughly the same. So if we did 150 meters at 15th, we're not doing any on 11th, or is there enough to, well, disclosing numbers?
Oh, so are you comparing this, like doing both 11th Avenue and 15th Avenue versus?
No, I guess the question is, how many meters did you have in mind if council said, yeah, we love your 11th idea between 5th and 6th? How many meters?
So for 11th Avenue, it would be around 300 meters.
Good to know. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. Anyway.
Okay, so there's some options on the table. We need to close this discussion off. I think we've had a very healthy discussion. My question to council is there an appetite to provide direction to reallocate resources at the point in the summertime where all the other paving is done? It's time to do a section, whether it's 11th or 15th or 2 and 3, that when it comes time to do that, if the allocation isn't secured for a second and it looks like we're not going to get a second done, then to reallocate those resources or not take for a motion in that regard. I'll have to fix the wording. Anybody opposed to that? Okay, well, there seems to be an appetite to move down a path, of doing something as opposed to doing nothing. So does somebody want to make a motion or move a motion in that regard?
Your Worship, could I make a suggestion? We're not entirely sure exactly what the ratepayer specific portion is of what we had budgeted for the Habitat Road. I'm the last person that likes to delay things. I'm just wondering, given the unknowns right now, if we would just defer this into the next meeting and come up with what exactly have we taxed, quote unquote, for the Habitat Road, and like what's the magnitude of that, and what's the best bang for the buck? Is it 11th, is it 15th, is it 2 or 3? Is it that can be done?
It's a fair question, and forgive me for the persistence, but I know what time of year we're at, and I know we're trying to get contractors, and even waiting till next meeting, I think is going to make things even more difficult to get things done. And the only reason why I say that is I've seen this movie, and we're all part of it. We've been part of it every year, and we're all repeating. I think that to be able to vote, and that's what's frustrating me a little bit. We just need to be decisive, make some decisions, and get things done. But I can appreciate if council wants to wait.
We're going to close later. Could we not find out what the amount of closed?
It's not an item in close, but we can ask council for review. I guess, Madam Clerk, to have that discussion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So, okay. Good discussion. Let's have a little bit of a chat and close, get the numbers, and let's make a direction. We'll come back out and open for the public and make a direction. That sounds good direction, folks? Okay, great discussion. Appreciate everybody's patience and indulgence. All right, Madam Clerk, you lead 14-1.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, can I read the motion?
Of course.
Be resolved that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Cochrane received report 2026-46, and that Council authorized staff to proceed with a 1-year fixed term loan with Desjardins Financial Institution, And further, that a bylaw be presented to council at an upcoming regular council meeting to ratify the one-year fixed term loan.
Moved by Councillor Reimer. Second by Councillor Shed on the minute.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything to take away from the department? Good. Okay, you're not going to take away from the department?
Just a couple of points, mostly for the public watching at home. This is not new debt. These are just renewals. And the treasurer did her best to get the best rate possible. And the recommendation is to just do 1 year to buy us a little bit more time to watch the review and see how the interest rates are going, and then revisit our debt if there's another opportunity at the next horizon to hopefully get a better rate if everything falls into place. Either way, we recommend we just 1 year at a time for this one, for these loans, and then understand it's going forward.
Okay. Anything from council? Moved by Councillor Reimer, second by Councillor Shed on the meal. In favor? Carried. Thank you very much. All right. We're in bylaws already. Bylaws, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and subsequently passed this 16th day of June, 2026. Bylaw number 2026-33 to establish the 2026 Municipal Election Compliance Audit Committee. Bylaw 2026-46 to authorize a bank loan agreement for folio number 0574584 with Case Desjardins Ontario Credit Union Incorporated. And the addition bylaw to the agenda, bylaw number 2026-57, to appoint a treasurer for the corporation of the town of Cochrane.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Decidido.
Yes, Your Worship.
And second by Councillor Nelson.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Calling for any public input upon first reading. Seeing none, calling upon any changes proposed by council upon second reading. Seeing none upon first, second, and third reading. Moved by Councillor Decidido, second by Councillor Nelson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, Madam Clerk, 15.3, the add-on.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, we just dealt with that in the consent bylaws. My apologies.
Okay, so can we correct that?
We can, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I didn't catch that either. My apologies.
No,
Oh, we were being efficient.
that is correct, Councillor.
Some would call it that. Some would call it something else.
Would we like to deal with this one, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. I'll read the motion, just one moment. Just 1 second, Mr. Mayor.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, so bylaw number 2026-57, being a bylaw to appoint a treasurer for the corporation of the town of Cochrane, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 16th day of June, 2026.
Okay, moved by Councillor Decidido, second by Councillor Yurkowski.
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. So before we get going, Mr. CEO, perhaps what you can do for the public record is explain why you're asking us to reappoint a treasurer.
Sure. Of course, context is essential in this case. So the treasurer is no longer with the town. We have therefore made some temporary adjustments to workflows to improve and continue to run effectively. That includes the treasury staff are reporting directly to me. And I'm already a signing officer for the town, so that is helpful as well to maintain services. I've served as acting treasurer in other municipalities. I think this is a short-term situation. Given the statutory nature of the role, the amendment of the bylaw is recommended to reflect these adjustments on a temporary basis during a transition period as we seek a more permanent solution for a treasurer.
Okay, thank you for that. Any comments from council? Councillor Nelson.
Can you give an estimate on how long this will be for? Like, what's the goal to have that built?
We're going to be discussing in closed session several potential options for interim support. So I'm hoping this is weeks, not months. It's certainly, hopefully it's not months, not years. We're talking about weeks, not months. We are looking at various solutions for interim support, and we are cautiously optimistic we have various options.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Decidido, second by Councillor Yurkowski. Calling for any public input upon first reading, seeing none. Upon second reading, call for any changes from council, seeing none. Upon first, second, and third reading, moved by Councillor Casabido, second by Councillor Costa. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. All right, that Madam Clerk, I believe I have a motion to go into this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Can I read the motion?
Of course.
Be resolved that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Cochrane now comes into a portion of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 6:54 p.m. in accordance with sections 239 subsection 2 clause B, C, D, and K of the Municipal Act to discuss in-camera draft meeting minutes held on May 26, 2026, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board regarding a request to purchase municipal land abutting 8th Street and SGS and Agnico Eagle lease agreements. A personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and labor relations or employee negotiations regarding staff matters surrounding the organizational structure changes. Labor relations or employee negotiations regarding update on bargaining with QP Local 71. A position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board regarding potential road funding opportunity. An update on discussion of joint venture with community partner concerning a recreational and economic opportunity, along with the addition from the amended agenda, which is under section 239 subsection 2 clause B, a personal matter about an identifiable individual regarding an update on treasurer position.
Okay, moved by Councillor Nelson, second by Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
strawberry pie next week.
What is this with the next week?
See you on the 30th.
Okay,
Got 2 weeks.
right, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that council return to its regular council meeting at 9:07 p.m. and that council do now rise and report on the matters discussed. A closed session was held in accordance with section 239 subsection 2, clause B, C, D, and K of the Municipal Act to discuss in-camera draft meeting minutes held on May 26. Request to purchase municipal land abutting 8th Street and SGS and Agnico Eagle lease agreements. A personal matter about identifiable individuals regarding staff matters surrounding organizational structure change, labor relations or employee negotiations regarding the update on the bargaining with QP Local 71, a position plan procedure criteria in relation to potential road funding opportunity, and update on discussion of joint venture with community partner concerning a recreational and economic opportunity, an addition to close in relation to an update on the treasurer position, along with an additional addition to closed. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I made that comment at that note. The additional addition to closed was the discussion on 2nd Street under section 239 subsection 2, clause J.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Shannon Lemieux, second by Councillor Nelson.
Yes, Rich.
All in favor? Thank you. Any motions to deal with?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there are two motions arising from closed.
Okay.
The first one reads as followed. Be it resolved that council proceed with the original recommendation provided with closed meeting report 2026-45.
Okay, moved by Councillor Decevito,
Yes, your worship.
second by Councillor Rogoski.
Yes.
Anything to add or take away? Favor? Carried, thank you very much.
Can I read the second motion, Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Second motion reads as followed. Be it resolved that council receive and support closed meeting report 2026-47 as information. And further that council supports the restructuring of the growth and economic development manager with the corresponding level 5 compensation as per the salary.
Moved by Councillor Reimer,
Yes, Your Worship.
second by Councillor Nelson.
Yes, Rich.
Thank you. Anything to add or take away? All in favor? Carried, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, before you go to a motion to adjourn, I'd like to update just on the discussion on the 2nd Street Avenue. That was a public discussion we started with before we went into close. Council provided direction for reporting to be provided back at the next council meeting with recommendations on if 2nd Street can't be completed, then options on where we can reallocate the resources in the municipality to catch up on some of the road work that's there. And so we'll wait till the next council meeting to finalize that discussion. With that, Madam Clerk, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that this regular council meeting is hereby adjourned at 9:10 p.m.
Moved by Councillor C. Shannon Lemieux, second by Councillor Ryan. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you for joining.